Callaghan, and today I will be reading Exodus 16. The whole Israelite community set out from Elim, and came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. On the 15th day of the second month after they came out of Egypt, in the desert the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve the entire assembly to death." First I found out how long the desert of Sin is, and I got an answer of roughly 700 kilometers. That's not just a brisk walk. That's to say goodbye to all your friends, because you won't see them next month. In verse 2 to 3 it says, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt, there we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve the entire assembly to death." I can't imagine being enslaved our whole lives, but let's try. Imagine being enslaved our whole life. Imagine day after day we have to work until sundown. We have to do the hardest work than probably any of us will ever do in our entire lives. Baking, literally roasting in the Egyptian sun. People are fainting and throwing up because the heat's too much. Day after day getting whipped with a big, thick cord, wound tight with sharp splinters of metal and glass. Every time the whip comes down, it's too much and we fall on our face, feeling warm blood trickle down our foreheads. Have you ever had a splinter? It's like that, but 1,000 times more painful. You could die just getting whipped over and over again. You could die of infection. You could die of pain, because your body can't take it anymore. You could die of blood loss or starvation because your family needs to eat more than you do. Not to mention we get flayed if we do something wrong, or if the Egyptians are bored. Slaves come a dime a dozen, in other words. We could only own so little because we were slaves. Not to mention being told not to make too many friends because they could die in the morning. Then imagine being freed from all that and promised land, which was a very big deal back in the day. Land was very valuable. Not only land, but land filled with riches that make your money back. A land filled with milk and honey, or the modern day equivalent, Coke and Mars bars. So imagine being promised land flowing with Coke and Mars bars, which I have to say, might not be healthy, but it does sound tempting, and if you gave me a choice between Coke and slavery, I think I'd rather hang out with Santa than make a bunch of statues of the same guy over and over again. Anyway, we finally got out of the desert, and now we don't get whipped or beaten. All we have to do is walk at a slow pace for a good 2 weeks, and we're free. Man, I think we would just give pretty much anything for freedom, but all we had to do was a 2-week jogging plan. I think I would take that offer pretty quickly. I mean, it should only take the Israelites 2 weeks, because that's roughly how it should have taken the Israelites to get from Egypt to the Promised Land. That's not including all the delays like making golden cattle, sending spies out, and making the 10 Commandments during this process. But still, I would have walked quite far to get to a land free from slavery. But then on the way there, we weren't thankful. We complained about the food and the broken air conditioner and how come the desert is so boring. We complain about every little thing we can complain about. If I didn't know God, I would think He'd start doling out the punishments. You have the Black Plague. You're now lame. You're lactose intolerant. You'd only save that one for the worst. Don't worry. To wish we were back in Egypt would be crazy enough, but then to wish we died as slaves in Egypt because we're hungry, I think that's kind of ridiculous. Probably not the only one. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will rain down bread from the heaven for you. The people are to go each day and gather enough for that day. In this way I will test them to see whether they will follow my instructions. On the 6th day they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days." Keep in mind that this is just God telling Moses what's coming. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of God, because He has heard your grumbling against Him. Who are we that you should grumble against us?" Moses also said, You will know that it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening and all the bread you want in the morning, because he has heard you grumbling against him. Who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord. In verses 6 it says, In the evening you will know that it was against that the Lord brought you out of Egypt. 1. You need another reminder that the Lord brought you out of Egypt. 2. You need another reminder. Anyways, in verses 7 and 8 it says, And in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we that you should grumble against us? Moses also said, You will know that it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening and all the bread you want in the morning, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord. They need a reminder that it was God that brought them out of Egypt, and it was God that brought the meat and the bread from heaven. I have a theory how they keep needing reminders, but that's a story for another time. It doesn't matter. Then Moses told Aaron, Say to the entire Israelite community, Come before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling. So it's like your parents buying you some Johnnies, taking you out for ice cream, and the 2 kids in the back seat are grumbling that one of them got more ice cream, and the other's hamburger is too big. That's when your mom goes to one of the other kids and asks for him to make them apologize before she loses it. Don't ask me how I know. I don't know. Never been the kid in the back seat, that's for sure. I'm sure we all had those backseat moments, and I'm sure we all had those other kid moments as well, although I doubt all of us had those mom moments. While Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they looked towards the desert of Sin, and there was the glory of the Lord appearing to them in a cloud. So when Aaron told the Israelites to apologize to the Lord came down in a giant cloud. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, it was OneCon. I think it was OneCon. It was either OneCon or June 4th. No, 4th. They had a Spring 4th. There it is. When we were at a gas station for OneCon or Spring 4th, I was walking to the doors of the gas station, and I think it was Beth who honked her horn at me. It made me jump so high, any frog would be proud, and all the atheists would use me as evidence for evolution. Back on topic. If a car horn can startle people, imagine a talking cloud. I would have so much fun scaring people. I paid good money to be a clown. Getting back on topic. The Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Tell them, At twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. This is God saying to the Israelites. That evening, quail came and covered the entire camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared in the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, What's this? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, It is the bread the Lord has given you. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they need. Take 1 omer for each person you have in your tent. I probably should have found out what an omer exactly was. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent. Just let me take a sec. If someone told you dinner was on them and they would unleash quail from the sky and rain bread from heaven, I would say, That's nice, don't mind me, I'm just calling the cops. And later that day it rains bread from heaven and quail come from the sky, I wouldn't be like, Man, I wonder who did that. Or, Gosh, what a coincidence. I would be very worried that I called the cops on a magician. The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much and some little. And when they measured it out by the omer, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone had gathered just what they needed. Then Moses said to them, No one is to keep any of it until morning. However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. So Moses was angry with them. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as they needed. When the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person. And the leaders of the community came out and reported this to Moses. He said to them, This is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of Sabbath, a day of rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So bake what you want to bake, and boil what you want to boil. Save whatever is left and keep it till morning. Let's just grasp the idea that God did not kill us for complaining. He didn't even punish us. He gave us a gift. Then he gave us simple instructions. If the Almighty said to me, Luke, only one bowl of cereal this morning, I'd have to be stupid not to. Let's also grasp the idea that it's raining bread from heaven. On the sixth day, they are to gather and prepare what they bring in for tomorrow. That is twice as much as on the other days. So more instructions like make yourself toast for tomorrow too. So simple. So simple instructions. I bet the Israelites who took the bread's mothers and wives gave them a good lecture. Would have sounded much harsher and longer in Hebrew. I'd also hate to be the guy who thought he could outsmart God in that situation. Heck, I'd hate to be the guy who thinks they can outsmart God in any situation. So they saved it until morning, as Moses commanded, and it did not stink or get maggots in the bread or the meat. Eat it today, Moses said, because today is the holy Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather it, but on the seventh day, the Sabbath, there won't be any. Nevertheless, some people went out on the seventh day to gather it, but they found none. Then the Lord said to Moses, How long will you refuse to keep my commands and instructions? Bear in mind that the Lord has given you the Sabbath. That is why on the sixth day he gives you bread for 2 days. Everyone is to stay where they are on the seventh day. No one is to go out. So the people rested on the seventh day. Keep in mind that you in Hebrew is actually plural, so it's more like yous. I'm also kind of tired of people thinking over and over again, that'll never happen, it's fine, I'll do it anyway. And then Moses putting his hand over his head and thinking to himself, how many times do we have to go over this? At least all the people rested on the Sabbath. Afterwards, and no one went out after the first time they went out. The Israelites' mistakes remind me of the saying, fools boldly go where angels feared to tread. In other words, keep poking the bear and you'll likely die. That's the redneck version. The people of Israel called the bread manna, and it was like white courtier seeds and tasted like wafers made from honey. Moses said to them, This is what the Lord had commanded. Take an omer of manna and keep it for generations to come, so that they will see the bread I gave you to eat in the wilderness when I brought you out of Egypt. I found a footnote in my Bible, and the Hebrew word for manna actually sounds like the Hebrew word for what is this, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's in here. So Moses said to Aaron, Take a jar and put an omer of manna in it. Then place it before the Lord to be kept for generations to come. As the Lord commanded Moses, Aaron put the manna with the tablets of the covenant law, so that it might be preserved for the Israelites many years to come. The Israelites ate manna for 40 years until they came to the promised land. In other words, they ate manna until they reached the border of Canaan. There is such thing as manna today. I looked it up. It looks weird, but when you get home, look it up. I read it tastes something like sesame snaps, which are amazing, by the way. They're really good. I think that this message's reminder is a reminder of the Lord's amazing gifts and our amazing skills to grumble and complain and focus on the bad and not the good. We should be thanking the Lord for the things He has given us and the things He is not giving us, not focus on the negative. This was kind of an extreme case of focusing on the negatives, but it doesn't mean the smaller ones don't matter. Don't complain about the things you don't have, and especially don't complain about the things you do have. Be thankful for the things you have. It's something easy like thank you God for the vehicle that can drive us from place to place, or thank you Lord that I don't have to live on someone else's couch, or even thank you that the guy's couch is comfy. Also, what I got from this message is don't ignore God's instructions, lest you want maggots in your waffles. You can delete that part. Don't take God's gifts for granted. Look out the window and see the manna. Don't say, oh, well, that's lucky, or, oh, guess that just made my day. No, God made your day. So at least thank Him for your day. I'm going to pray. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the chance you have given us to stay connected. Please help the coronavirus and its spread. May it stop. Please give us a plentiful summer. And please remind us of your amazing gifts. In Jesus' name, amen. I got a haircut.